If you are citing that law to prove institutional racism, and that law has not been applied for 50 years, you're going to need to do better.
Hey, hey, I'm not gonna lie. That was a very, very good discussion.
This would qualify as a racist institution, the state of Alabama.
This is going to be a good video, man. So my name is Jojo. I'm a college graduate student studying electronics engineering, trying to learn more about politics. In this video, a conservative pundit named Ben Shapiro will be debating a college student about if institutional racism exists. As you've seen from the front of the video, or the beginning of the video, he said the entire state of Alabama proves that institutional racism exists. I hope you guys enjoy this video. I'm excited to learn about it, and let's get into it.
I have an answer to a question that you commonly pose whenever the topic of institutional racism is brought up.
Sure.
You'll always ask, where is the institution? Show me the racist laws so that we can fight them together.
Correct.
Welcome to Alabama. This would qualify as a racist institution, the state of Alabama.
So now I go back to the question that you say that you answered, which is, show me the law. You've named an institution you don't like, now show me the law.
No, it's not an institution I don't like. I've lived here my whole life. But
I mean, you called it racist, so I assume you're not super fond of it.
Yeah, it has flaws, to say the least. But the Constitution of Alabama demands that schools be segregated by race. If it weren't for the federal government, there would only be white people in this room. We have tried to repeal this language, to get it out of the Constitution, at least once a decade, and it has failed. Every time we have.
If what he's saying is true, if the Constitution of Alabama demands for segregated schools, then that would be an example of institutional racism in the entire state of Alabama. And I don't care how you phrase it. If the Constitution of Alabama states that schools need to be segregated, that to me is a form of institutional racism. But let's hear how Ben Shapiro responds, and let's hear the rest of this video. Like I said previously, I don't have any support on either side. I'm here to expose the truth, point blank, period. I do not care.
Have voted to keep segregation as law in the state of Alabama. So I'd say that qualifies the state as
Yes. So I will admit to you. Okay. So a couple of fundamental assumptions. Okay. I'm going to admit I have not read the Constitution of the state of Alabama, so I don't know the provision that you are talking about. I will assume that it says what you say it says for the purposes of this conversation. If in fact there's a provision in the state law of Alabama that says that segregation is mandated by law, of course that's racist. That's Jim Crow, and that would be institutional racism. The point that I'm making is that there are a lot of black people in this room today because the institutional racism that you are decrying was in fact wiped out at the legal level by the federal government in the 1960s. So if you're citing a law from 1873 or 1865, whenever the Constitution embedded segregation, if you are citing that law to prove institutional racism, and that law has not been applied for 50 years, you're going to need to do better.
Hey, hey, I'm not gonna lie. That was a very, very good discussion, because here's the problem. If he's saying that Alabama is institutionally racist, it's kind of hard to say that if Alabama is within the confines of a federal government which just abolishes institutional racism. What I'm meaning is, he said that the Constitution of Alabama says schools need to be segregated. Alabama can't be institutionally racist if the federal government supersedes them and says, no, you can't do that in this country. So, do you get what I'm saying? It would be impossible for Alabama to be institutionally racist as long as the federal government is over them. So, Ben Shapiro responding like that, it was a very good response. I do want to see what the student says, though.
There were several lawmakers in the last few years caught on tape talking about the need to suppress the black vote, referring to black people as aborigines and illiterates.
Right. I've always said there are racist people. And by the way, when there are people who act in maliciously racist fashion, in my opinion, I have donated money to their primary opponents. Right? I did that like a month ago for Steve King.
These are lawmakers, though. These are people who are actually making laws in this state.
So I don't understand where we disagree. In other words, if you show me the comment and I say I oppose the comment and therefore I oppose the lawmaker, and then they pass a law and I agree that the law is racist and I oppose the law, we don't disagree. So the point that I'm making is, are there people who are racist in the United States? Sure. Are there people who are racist in the government? I'm sure, because the government is representative of the United States. But when people talk about institutional racism, they tend to do so by suggesting, and this is my main argument about institutional racism, to put this in kind of rounded context. The main argument that I'm making about institutional racism is not that racism doesn't exist, it's that to attribute every disparity to discrimination, which is what seems to be the intersectional argument. That if one group of people has less property than another group of people, or one group of people has less wealth, or one group of people is less economically successful, or one group of people is less educated, that is the result of current present-day institutional racism, that is not useful, and in fact, it's counterproductive. Because what it is doing is it is suggesting a fault that does not occur in the present. Now, I've also said in every speech that I've made for multiple years at this point, that to deny historic racism would, of course, be idiocy. Of course, historic racism exists. Of course, that has present-day consequences. But that does not answer the question as to which policy currently in place is causing the disparity. So if you can point to the policy that is intended and designed to create disparity between groups, and then you can say that that is what causes the disparity between groups, then we can agree on abolishing the law. I want to get rid of those obstructions the same way that you do. My goal is that the law equally applies to everyone, meaning that everybody has the same rights. We're not all born with the same opportunity because no one is. Some of us are born rich, some of us are born poor, some of us are born short like me, some people are born tall. Right? I mean, people are just born differently. Some people are born smarter and some people are born stupid. This is why Democrats exist. But the fact, it's just a joke. There are lots of smart Democrats. I just don't know why they do what they do. But with that said, I think what people make the mistake of doing is suggesting that because people end up in an unequal position every day, that is the result of current day people standing in their way and obstructing legal anti-discrimination. I don't think that's correct.
Okay, obviously Ben Shapiro won this discussion. I do think the student was more intellectual. I think he was pretty smart. But he obviously lost this debate, obviously. I will give him credit for posing, or at least having some level of knowledge about the Alabama Constitution, or even about having alleged arguments about the lawmakers, so on and so forth. But the way Ben Shapiro broke it down, he kind of, did allude to it not being institutional racism. So I really enjoyed this. I learned a lot. And I didn't know how Ben Shapiro was going to bounce back from that. I really didn't. Because even me, I wouldn't have had a response for if I was to debate him or fight against the concept of institutional racism. I don't know how I would have responded to him saying that the Alabama law calls for segregated schools. Because I agree with him. I 100% agreed. But then, to my surprise, Ben Shapiro also agreed, but then he posed a different argument that I didn't even catch, if I'm being honest. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. My name is Jojo, and I'll see you on the next one.